friends, it's RSKT, and welcome back to another episode of the AE Modular Video Library, the series that takes a look at the wide range of modules available for the AE Modular system. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the Logic module, giving a general overview before diving into some demo patches later on. Before we begin, AE Modular is a small but ever-growing system, so if you find this video useful, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, or consider supporting me on Patreon. The videos for this series can be found in a playlist on my channel and can be viewed in any order. Green thumbnails are used for official Tangible Waves modules, and pink thumbnails are used to cover third-party modules. With that said, let's take a look at the Logic module. So when I first got my AE Modular system, I was fairly-ish new to the world of modular. I mean, I'd mess around on my Zoya here and I'd mess around in VCV Rack a little bit, but that was pretty much the extent of it. And I don't mind saying that out of all the modules in here, I managed to figure them out fairly quickly, but the Logic module kind of did my head in. And looking back now, I don't particularly know why it was so hard for me to wrap my head around, because even once I sort of learnt it all, I kind of just forgot all of the rules and now just plug things in willy-nilly and get really cool and interesting results. So I guess what I'm building up to is that there's going to be a few tables that I'll probably flash up on the screen through the duration of this video to help explain a few of its features, but don't get too hung up on remembering what all of them are. Yes, it can be really useful to put them on a notepad next to you while you're patching if you really plan on using it that way, but you can also just use it randomly and sort of see what you get out of it. So diving in, the Logic module basically allows you to plug things into it, and then judging by a few different rules will give you different outputs. We can use it to trigger gates, or we can plug in audio signals and get like really cool sort of culminations of sound. Looking at the inputs and outputs, because there are two Logic modules pretty much in this thing, we have A and B for the first one, A and B for the second one. And then if we want to invert signals, we've also got these two inputs where we can plug something in and then invert it using the invert out down the bottom here. Now, in terms of outputs, we've got and, as well as XOR, and that goes for the second one as well. And then, yeah, the two inverted signals, like I said. And there are no controls on the module. It basically just does the job as soon as you plug things in. But we do have these two little LEDs which show us the gates being put out by the AND of each of the Logic modules. So just so that we can have a bit more of an audible result of what's going on when we use this thing, I'll just hook up my mixer. And I'm just going to set up a very basic patch. So I'm going to take the sequence, the blue sequence on my Euclid grid over here, which just has this 1 point, plug this into A, and then I'll take the purple sequence, which has 2 points, and plug this into B. And I think a really useful way to understand this thing will just be to use the rim shot module over here, because we'll just get a nice clean click of a sound, and it should be enough to explain what is going on. So let's start with an AND. So we can see that while these two sequences are playing, the only time we hear our snare sound is when both sequences have the exact same points playing at the same time. We're not hearing it on this second one in the purple sequence. So if we go back to the blue sequence and we introduce another step, now we get that. We could make the steps a little crazier. And now we've generated some sort of rhythm. So just to give you a little bit of a clearer understanding as to what's going on here, I'll just flash up a table on the screen. Basically, an AND outputs a low signal when both input signals are high. Otherwise, it outputs a high signal. Let's set these back to how we had them before and have a listen to AND. So it sounds like the same thing, and I'll just flash up a table on screen here. And outputs a high signal when both input signals are high. Otherwise, it'll output a low signal. And please keep in mind that you don't have to use something like the WIKI grid to do this. You can use things like LFOs or the sequence 8 over here, but we'll explore those a little bit later on. Finally, if we have a look at XOR, I'll flash up the table again. XOR outputs a high signal when either input signal is high, but not when both are high or low. So we can mess around with these sequences a bunch. And we can continue to just have a listen. Great. So I'm just going to plug this back into AND for the time being. And rather than taking inputs from the WIKI grid down here, maybe we should take it from a square wave on the LFO. And we'll take another square wave from a different LFO, moving at a different rate. Let's try XOR. Pretty different. So something else that you might want to try is we could take the AND signal from here. Let's use a shorter cable. And we could just plug it into one of the invert sections down the bottom here, and then take our signal from that invert. So it's not going to sound too drastically different, but what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that you can continue to sort of plug and play within the module. And if you've got several logic modules, you can kind of invent your own little tables of how things should be responding to one another. So what I'm going to do for now is let's just unplug everything for the time being. And now let's try taking something like a sawtooth wave and we'll feed it into here because yeah, you can feed audio signals into this as well. And maybe we'll take a square wave from the same module and plug it in down here. Now I'm just going to shove this through a filter just in case things get a little bit hairy. And then we'll take our filter out. Cool. So now we can actually mix around our oscillators and get like a ring modulation kind of effect. We could take this from AND or XOR, which sounds particularly gnarly. Sounds like an overdriven guitar. And you know, we can mix and match different oscillator types. We could even take a sine wave and maybe a triangle wave. Triangle waves are usually pretty quiet. Take one from here. Then take the XOR. Maybe we'll plug it into an inverter. We could take that inverted signal and whack it into the same filter. And you know, using something like the 555, we could just keep plugging other oscillators into this using the exponential input and getting even crazier sounds. From there, maybe we want to take some triangle waves, whack it into an attenuator, and we'll play around with some pitch modulation on some of these. Let's attenuate another signal. Pitch modulate this one. Maybe we could do this one. And then finally, I guess, because I'm really stretching this out longer than it has to be at the moment, but let's take that, whack it into a delay module, because I always think ring modulation sounds really cool through delay. Crank up the feedback. And for the heck of it, maybe we can take the 2 auto over here. We'll just do a very slow recording of a filter opening and closing. I'll probably have to redo that, but let's try it anyway. Now we have this really cool evolving sound. Which I think is really, really neat. And just opens the doorway for tons and tons of different creative possibilities. So yeah, I hope that you don't mind this demo being more sound design focused than like trigger and sequencing focused, because I think it's pretty obvious that you can use the logic module to come up with like interesting rhythms and changes. Like, you know, you could be triggering a snare and a kick drum and make it so that every offbeat is a hi-hat, which makes a lot of sense to use something like a logic module for that. Or stringing a bunch of these together could make really cool complex sequences that you sort of patch and program yourself. But yeah, I think it's really amazing that you can feed audio signals into this and get these really cool otherworldly sounds that you normally wouldn't be able to make with anything else. Start on a little bit more low end for the Zoya, and then we'll wrap this up. Man, I could totally hear a sound like that popping up on a Tool album somewhere. It just, yeah, it's awesome and ambient and like kind of dark and ominous as well. I really like it. So yeah, other than that, I don't think that there's too much more I have to say about the Logic module. So I hope that you enjoyed the demo patches that are about to play for you. Hit the like if you like, and if you don't, tell me why. Please subscribe, check me out on Patreon, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.